Thank you, Don. And if you don't like zombie fiction, I think we're going to go to something completely different next. So here we go with Eric Bodwell. Eric Bodwell has been writing poetry since he was an angst-ridden teenager. He gravitates towards autobiographical topics or anything he is currently obsessing about. This year, his first published poem appeared in the Main Street Rag. He's a high school librarian in Naperville and fond of Seth Godin's reminder that a librarian isn't a clerk who happens to work at a library. A librarian is a data hound, a guide, a Sherpa, and a teacher, the interface between realms of data and the untrained but motivated user. Eric?
And now for something completely different, I think. But I've heard that you probably want to win over your audience right away. So I thought I would read a love poem that I wrote for my wife. So that'll win her over at least. So it's called Maybe One Day. When we are gray, all of our memories like sleeping toddlers in our arms, our days, the house we built, never lost or empty. What will we remember? What will we say about our story? It will be moments we will chew on over our dinner plates, spiced with laughter, brief looks, and some broken with grief or simmered with anger, waiting for lingering hands, truces before bed without asking. There will be nights, driving home from anywhere, taillights floating red like strange fireflies, the summer arriving only for us. One November evening, it's us across the room, just beginning. So, there's a sonnet too, actually, I forgot to mention, but. Thanks. And now this is what Anna said in the bio there, things I'm currently obsessing about. This is something I was obsessing about last year, strangely enough, about the relationship between William and Ida McKinley, President McKinley. So this is actually a poem written about McKinley's relationship when he was governor of Ohio and they lived in the Chittenden Hotel in Columbus. It's in the voice of a young German immigrant boy who works at the hotel. It's called Thomas Explains the McKinleys, 1893. My name is Thomas. I serve the grand statesmen of Ohio, the tenants of the top floor of the Chittenden Hotel. I am the man of our house on Livingston Avenue. I am just 15, but this job provides cabbage and bread loaves for our table. I deliver afternoon tea and calling cards or fancy girls up the servants' staircase for coppers, or sometimes even dimes. But it's no pocket full of rocks compared to the gossip we trade around the hotel, like the gold nuggets they have out west. The governor and the delicate Mrs. McKinley in their fine rooms are huckleberries above persimmons, unlike the other no-account scoundrel Democrats in the lower floors. There are stories of the First Lady rocking in her chair, the memory of her dead daughters in her arms like some ghastly character from a fiction by Mr. Poe. But that is not the lady I know, who gazes at her dear William with total devotion, who knits those blue, gray, or bright red slippers for veterans and orphans with tireless industry. The Major, as the governor asks us to call him, even the Negro maid, always has a kind word for all of us who haunt the kitchens, sweat in the laundry, or serve desserts to their guests. We are the silent witnesses who have seen the lady's fits, the grotesque gurgles, the Major protecting her dignity with his napkin while we polish silverware with distracted intensity. We are the ones who grow more roses when the Major cuts them out of the gardens for his dear Idie on his morning walks, the one who see their stories unfolding, like the tales of great kings, monsters, and brave children that coax my little sister, Brigitte, mein Spazi, to sleep, stories that tell men how to carry their burdens. Thanks. And now, of course, a poem about tacos. So, it's called How to Find a Perfect Taco in the Suburbs. Don't start with a tortilla the size of your palm. Look for the building, not the one with burritos marching down an assembly line with squirts of sour cream and beans. Instead, find the town with a grocery store stocked with wrinkled chayotes, crinkly corn husks for tamales, squat and speckled jicama. Start there. Find the bodega down the next street, one with no name, unless it's painted in green and red on the front window. The food counter is in back between the magazines and pickled jalapenos and carrots. The sizzling chicken on the grill, carnitas bubbling on back burners, and the sting of cumin and chili in your nose will lead you there. Point to the grill, where the caramel-skinned woman chops carne asada with her spatula blade, her ponytail bouncing to the beat of reggaeton in her headphones. Sweated onions and cilantro wait in a pile as you point to her work and say in your best 11th grade Spanish, "Dos por favor." It looks like this: corn tortillas dipped and seared, the steak stacked, the cilantro, onions, queso fresco crumbles, and 2 lime wedges, all rolled into a square of aluminum foil. You can't eat it here, so you go to the lavanderia down the block, buy a Dr. Pepper out of the soda machine, and find a wobbly plastic table near the television in the corner, where the noon telenovela plays. One where star-crossed lovers are possibly brother and sister, and the maid and handyman are villains or heroes, depending on the week. So. This poem is the one that actually got published, and it was sort of ironic because I wrote it 15 years ago, and then I did a little bit of revising, and it's the only one I've gotten published, even though I've been writing regularly for the past 5 years. So it's called Definition, which just leads me to think I need to work on poems for 15 years before they get published. But it was how we sat in silence for hours after dinner, aware of our vocabulary, hoarse after years of conversation, and how that quiet fell over us like the woolen fog from the first days of last September. It was how I measured the distance of your spine with the cadence of my breath, a careful cartography of forearms, stomachs, and backs. It was how I carried the story of you to this place, deep among red maples and meadow voles, a season between us, the miles between each word saying enough. I have a few more. This one, I participated in a meditation group, and one night somebody said that they were going to give their anxiety the night off, and it just stuck in my head, and I thought, what would that look like from the point of view of the anxiety? So, of course, I wrote a poem about it. So it's called Angela's Anxiety Has the Night Off, and it's in the voice of the anxiety. So, first, I need to explain, this is not a job that begins with bullet point histories or respectable classifieds. I was born into it, destined to serve, a butler of absurd possibilities and jagged edges of thought. My job is to ask questions, to sing like a siren, to beat those primitive drums until Angela's thoughts capsize onto jutted assumptions and craggy conjectures. No more, no less. And now, my first night off in months as Angela attempts meditation one more time, I'm in my studio apartment in the deep, shady neighborhoods of her mind. Arms akimbo, I consider the copper pots, crusted with fettuccine alfredo, still in the sink. The cracks in the barren eggshell walls, the same since I moved in years ago. Everything was simpler then. She only needed me when doll shadows crept along her bedroom walls, or if the neighbor's mocha Labrador ventured too close. When Angela was in middle school, I pointed out nervous looks from boys, whispered the hidden rules of girlhood. In college, when Xanax left Angie empty, I stuck around like an old friend, ready to fill her with my whispers. Who was she kidding? We had needed each other since birth. Maybe tonight it's Thai and a movie with my friends, but no, it will be grape nuts and Ambien and early to bed, ready for the usual 3 a.m. phone call. Angela will need me. Please come over, she will say. It will be the same dream, the one about her mother at 25. Slicing peaches, looking out the window, waiting for someone to open the white gate, walk to the front door. Angela never knows who, never knows why. So, final poem is it's one that I actually wrote with a friend who lives in California, and we wrote the whole poem by texting lines to each other, and then we kind of edited it. So we both have different versions of this. Her name is Chris, and I hope she'll be watching this later in a couple of weeks from California. It's called The Woman Who Wanted to Kick the Darkness Out of the Night. In a town in the middle of Iowa lived a woman who wanted to kick the darkness out of the night. Over months, she trained, built up her strength, but the darkness was unstoppable. Seeping under her doorway, stretching out on doormats, she lit candles, borrowed propane camping lanterns, bought floodlights for her backyard and glow sticks for the kids. And yet, constellations blinked their way through sunsets, the night settling itself over her like a massive blanket, tangling up in her legs, waking her from sleep. The town was divided into the worshippers of moonlit porches and acolytes of sunrises in their sun-washed t-shirts. She was an agnostic. The darkness just didn't belong. The harder she kicked at it, the blacker the night became. So she left the town, always heading east, the darkness chasing her from the other side of the world. She haunted airport terminals in Juneau, Oslo, and Helsinki, hoping for a permanent midnight sun. She boarded cruise ships and fishing trawlers, blended into swaying faded boat decks, never quite navigating to some remote city off any map where darkness hadn't been discovered. In the end, it was simple. The email she sent from the cafe in Mumbai. "I am gone," it said. "Look for me on the face of the sun." So.